SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
Logan Farms has the perfect selection of gourmet meats for your holiday table. Whether you're purchasing corporate gifts or hosting a family gathering, our delicious meats are sure to satisfy. Call us at 601-366-HAMS or visit us at loganfarms.com.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning, Mississippi.
Everything gonna be all right this morning.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
Oh, yeah.
Here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Woo! Now, when I was a young boy, at the age of 5, my mother said I was gonna be the greatest man alive. But now I'm a man way past 21.
Happy Thursday morning. Welcome to Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. I appreciate you joining us as we get things off and rolling. We roll down the runway for takeoff of this plane this morning. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for choosing to be with us for part of the start of your morning. The C Spire text line is open to you each and every day. Best way for you to connect with us is the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395. Black Friday and Cyber Monday deals already at C Spire. Learn more about them online at cspire.com. C Spire, customer inspired. Mornings with Richard Cross is presented by Community Bank. So much that is happening at Community Bank, including their grand opening today in Starkville. Newest location, 403 Russell Street in Starkville, 4 to 6:30 this afternoon. We'll tell you more about that a little bit later this morning. Can't do this without Lance Tolbert, my running buddy. He's the one that makes it all happen behind the scenes, presses all the buttons, makes all the video do what it's supposed to do. Hello, friend.
What's up, my man? I mean, it's Friday for you, so we better get it done today, you know.
Life is good.
It is, isn't it?
Life is good. You know what else it is?
What's up, brother?
It's November 6th.
Yeah.
November 6th, day of significance. It's Obi's birthday today.
Oh, yeah. How old is the young buck?
Dude.
16, 15?
13.
13.
I got a teenager today.
That's awesome, man. Yeah.
2 teenagers in the house.
The worm has turned for him, as my dad said once to me, you know.
Or it's even
world's different now.
In the process of turning.
The world's different now. You're 13.
Yeah. You don't really see worms in tequila bottles anymore, do you?
Just mezcal.
Yeah. Okay.
They figured it out, you know, back in the day. They threw that worm in there to prove to you that it wasn't watered down.
That's right.
It was good tequila. And I think all of them now, they're just, everything's high end these days.
Yeah.
No need for the worm, man.
You didn't want that bottle anyway, did you?
Yeah,
if
you didn't
it had
want
the worm in it. Oh me, no, it's crazy, man. It's people tell you how fast it goes, and I know. I will enjoy every moment, enjoy all the stages of life. Sure, right? Yeah, I got you. Thanks, appreciate all the parenting advice. And then you're like, whew. Somewhere along the way, you recognize whoever they was, the proverbial they. They were right. It goes fast. I picked him up from school yesterday afternoon, and we went out to my buddy's farm and just doing some, checking on deer stands, making sure they're good to go. Got youth weekend that comes around this weekend, and split some firewood. And I sent Lance a picture we've got a family group text of Obi, or I made a picture or video of Obi splitting firewood yesterday. And my mom, she saves pictures, right? I mean,
oh, yeah.
She's probably got 1 million pictures on her phone, but she's got lots of them favorited and then has them in different folders and all this kind of stuff. So she can recall an old picture pretty quickly. She sends in response a picture from 9 years ago. I think it was January of 2016 of Obi and me splitting wood when he's like just turned 4.
Now, do you have like
3 or something like that?
Do you actually split the wood, or do you have a machine that splits it for you?
We went with a combination yesterday. We do have a splitter, and they are worth their weight in gold.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But one of my greatest memories in life is splitting wood with my friend Charles Walker, who's no longer with us anymore. And we pulled out the splitting maul yesterday and got after it.
That thing is fun.
He kind of led the charge on that.
I
Pretty
love
good
it.
workout.
Oh, it's a great workout. It was a similar story.
It's going a little bit.
One of my dad's buddies, he passed away a couple years ago, but at deer camp, he and my dad would sit there around the fire pit, and I'd go over there and start splitting oaks and whatever was around, and they would basically, all right, man, do you think he's going to split it in one hit now? You think he's going to get it in two? I mean, it was always just like side bets going on. And
Yeah.
I loved
like
it,
that.
man. And he passed away a couple years ago. So splitting wood is a little different now, but I mean, it's definitely nostalgic. Love it, though. It's one of those therapeutic things that once you get into it, after you get about half a cord done, you're like, man, I think I need a splitter.
Yeah, that's right. Having the option of the splitter makes manually splitting wood not nearly as bad.
You're one of the
Like,
guys that camps like
I
that.
know it can.
Yeah. One of the guys at camp's like, I mean, you can bring those over here and split them if you want to. The splitter's sitting right there. I'm like, yeah, I know. Let me do this for a little bit, get some exercise. But yeah, man, the splitter, the mechanical, when it is worth its weight in gold, you are right, man. Especially if you like burning wood.
When C-Spire text line, I love this. When we were splitting wood, my dad called me lightning. He said that was because it never hit in the same place twice. They're one of the truly satisfying feelings in life is when you are splitting wood and you hit it just right.
Oh yeah.
And there are two versions of that. There's the hit it just right, and it makes the perfect split all the way through, and you get, a nice quarter or a nice half. But there's another really satisfying feeling when you're splitting wood. You got a bigger oak log, one that's tough, and you've had to lean on it a time or two, and you hit that third or fourth lick, and it's the one that goes, and it kind of sticks in, and you feel it crack, and you're like, all right.
I love the one
I
where
got it.
Yeah, you hit it and it just starts slowly splitting it.
Yep. You're like,
You got that one.
I got it.
I won.
That was a good one.
I won.
Fulton and sunny for you today with a high of 77 with winds light and variable. Once you get down to about central Mississippi, working your way south, you're going to have some patches of fog this morning. Lexington, little fog for you, sunny skies, 79 degrees with light and variable winds. Columbia, you've got areas of patchy fog this morning also. Going to have some clouds this morning. We'll turn sunnier this afternoon, high of 82. And same thing in Biloxi. A little bit of fog this morning, some clouds. It's going to give way to mainly sunny skies. 76 for the high with winds out of the east, southeast at 5 to 10 miles per hour. You have any fog rolling in this morning?
No, it wasn't. I had to. It was on the outlook, but I haven't seen it yet. But yeah, patchy fog. Not seen it even in the low spots. And normally it would be right across the res as you come into Ridgeland. So did not notice it this morning, but that obviously doesn't mean anything. So.
CC in Senatobia says what's awesome about a splitter is it'll hit a knot and just keeps right on going.
Knots are fun, yeah.
Ray and Forrest. My grandfather used to ask me, boy, are you looking where you're hitting, or are you hit? Where are you looking? Yeah. There's some similarity to, catching a baseball.
Oh, I love that. It's great
catching
practice.
a football, hitting a golf ball. There's some hand-eye coordination that goes with it, no doubt.
Seems like we have some similar stories too, which I love. Like you and your son, me and my dad, others have that hand-me-down lesson, and then the jokes that come when you miss. And oh yeah, it's good stuff.
Well, and there's the one where the younger fella, whoever the younger fella in the story is, whacks on it a few times and nothing's happening, and hey, let me help you with that.
Yeah.
You go over and you first swing, crack. And you look at him and you're like, "You weak boy,"
Yeah.
or you go, "Hey man, you just loosened it up for me."
Yeah, you just loosened it up a little. I love a good. I got 3 wedges rolling around in the back of my vehicle at all times. So, Yeah, the Red Oaks. Yeah, we had one that went down a couple years ago. That was work. It was about a 100-year-old red oak too.
I think I've reached the point in my life, Lance, where if I need a wedge and a sledgehammer, I don't really want any part of that log. There are more trees that can be burned.
Man, I tell you, it's the wedge. That's always fun. Trying to root that thing out of there. If you get it jammed way down there, you start double wedging. Goodness.
Suleiman the Magnificent was born on this day in 1494, the Ottoman Sultan and the longest reigning Sultan of the Ottoman Empire. He had a 33-year reign, was born in Trabzon? We'll go with that.
You got me on that, yeah.
John Philip Sousa, 1854 is when he was born on this day, November the 6th. American composer and the March King, Stars and Stripes Forever. You know that one, born fittingly in Washington, D.C. One more birthday for you before the break. Dr. James Naismith, born in 1861. Physical educator and inventor of the game of basketball and the football helmet.
I like that one, yeah.
I hope he got patents on those.
Exactly.
He was born in Almonte, Ontario in Canada. Bob in Pontotoc says, good morning, boys. Great show as usual. Busted enough axe handles that my dad put a steel handle in there for me to swing.
I have one.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I have the steel-handled maul.
Monster maul with the steel handle.
Just lifting it is work.
We'll be right back.
From the Venable Glass.
Reaching across the state and across the aisle. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
I see you thinking.
I was reading. I guess I might have been thinking also. Reading a blurb about the negotiations between YouTube TV and ESPN.
Ooh. Yeah. I'd like to be a fly on the wall in that.
Not a lot of progress, apparently.
Kind of like the shutdown.
Yeah. This morning's with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi. Thanks for joining us this morning. Sally Field was born on November 6th, 1946. Forrest Gump, the most famous?
I don't know. I mean, Smokey and the Bandit was kind of one of the big ones, out of the gate. But then, obviously, as her career progressed, I mean, who doesn't know her in Forrest Gump? I mean, I think everybody's seen that 20 times at least.
Rock and Roll Hall of Fame member, American Grammy Award-winning guitarist and singer-songwriter Glenn Frey was born on this day in 1948. Credited with Take It Easy, Heartache Tonight, Tequila Sunrise.
Smuggler's Blues is my fave, man.
Is it?
Yeah, I love it. I just love the song.
You remember Pat Tillman?
Oh, yeah.
Born in 1976 on this day. Former football player. Played at Arizona State. Was a U.S. Army Ranger. Born in Fremont, California. Was so moved by the September 11th, 2001 terrorist attacks on the United States that he dropped football, joined the United States Army, became a Ranger, and ultimately lost his life overseas. They still do a really, really good job at Arizona State of remembering Pat Tillman. All right, some things that happened on this day. A whole bunch of presidents were elected. 1860, it was Abraham Lincoln elected the 16th president of the United States. 1888, Benjamin Harrison defeated sitting President Grover Cleveland 233 to 168 in the old Electoral College.
That's a whooping there.
And that was despite the fact that Cleveland won the popular vote. 1900, William McKinley and Teddy Roosevelt on the ticket defeated William Jennings Bryan. 1928, you had Herbert Hoover knocking off Al Smith. 1940, Franklin D. Roosevelt reelected. 1956, it was Dwight D. Eisenhower's turn, reelected president, defeating Adlai Stevenson. Feels like he lost a bunch of elections. And then in 1984, one of the greatest political beatdowns of all time, 49-1 in terms of states won. Ronald Reagan over Democrat Walter Mondale.
What do you think the biggest achievement or contribution of Eisenhower as president? I'm going with the interstate highway system. That's an amazing achievement. Learned a lot about that, in Germany when he was over there. But if you look at the map of what was created, the interstate system, it is amazing to me. That is a huge achievement. But didn't know if
hard to imagine how we function as a society without it.
I mean, it really blows your mind when you look at it and think about how quickly they built all that, too. We can't even get a bridge fixed in 2 years now.
No.
It's amazing.
49 states to 1 for for Ronald Reagan over Walter Mondale.
That is a super whoop down.
Yep. An interesting thing happened in 1991 in Russia. Boris Yeltsin outlawed the Communist Party. A couple of years after East Germany was liberated, communism was not really in vogue. Hey, have they gone back to the communist thing, or
it's who knows, whatever form of government.
What is it they call it?
Basically an oligarchy.
Yeah, they call it Putin's world. 2005, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, the fourth film based on J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter series, premiered in London. Became the most successful film of the year. Earned a little over $900 million. And because, Lance, I know you care, it was this day, November 6th, 8 years ago. No. 7 years ago. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez of New York became the youngest woman elected to the United States House of Representatives.
And she made drinks for everybody, right? Wasn't she a bartender before that? That's a pretty good promotion.
Tip your waiters and waitresses. He'll be here all week. Mm-hmm. Ceasefire text line.
Shaken, not stirred, my friend.
Yeah. She was a flying nun 10 years before Smokey and the Bandit.
Oh, yeah. Forgot about that one.
Jeff in Grenada. Oh, can I read this one without proofreading it first? I think so. You get a long one like that, and you're can I get away with it? Jeff says, funny story. Me, my dad, and my uncle were cutting and splitting wood on the deer farm about 35 years ago. Dad was an Ole Miss fan. Uncle was a State fan. My uncle had a brand new truck. State was winning, and my uncle was giving us a hard time about being gentle, making us gently set the wood in the back of his new truck. Ole Miss took the lead in the fourth quarter, and my uncle started chunking wood from 15 to 20 feet, crashing into the back of that new truck. Good memory. Uncle gone now. Dad is far from ever cutting any more wood.
Yeah, at our camp,
that's a good memory.
It reminds me of some times at our camp. We have fans from Southern Miss, State, Ole Miss, all kind of get there, hang out through the season. And State was always the dominant force when I was growing up. The radios, and I guess that's one of the things that I'm having an affinity for radio that was how I listened to games. That was it. And that State fight song, the next door neighbor in the cabin, Billy Smith, he'd have that thing turned up. You could hear it all over the woods, man. And that kind of got ingrained in me, from
aside from some of the people, and I mean this genuinely, like they're I went to school at Ole Miss. I'm an Ole Miss fan, all those things. There are some people in Starkville and at Mississippi State that I just absolutely think the world of. They're just are. Aside from the people, my favorite thing about Mississippi State is their fight song.
Oh, it's amazing.
It is just perfect.
It is. Like I said, from like 4 years old on, that's all you heard was the fight song, blaring constantly. It was good times, man.
Let's get to some news headlines this morning. No injuries reported following an explosion at an ammonia plant near Yazoo City, Yazoo County.
Ugly.
Yeah, it was rough. Happened at CF Industries facility on US 49 yesterday afternoon around 4:30. You had residents in the area that were asked to either evacuate or shelter in place. MEMA showed up, so did DEQ, Department of Public Safety. They were all assisting local law enforcement. Local and state agencies continue to monitor the situation and will provide updates as more information becomes available. You may recognize this name, Keon Howard. He was booked into the Fulton County Jail by the Atlanta Police Department on October 29th. 26 years old now, charged with aggravated sexual battery and rape. Offenses happened on October 28th. He was a standout quarterback at Laurel High School, helped the Tornadoes to a Class 5A state championship in 2015. Went on to play at Southern Miss, transferred to Tulane, finished up at UT Martin, really had a good last year at UT Martin. He was the Ohio Valley Conference Player of the Year and a finalist for the Walter Payton Award. The Laurel Leader Call reported that Howard was denied bail and is awaiting his next court appearance, which is scheduled for November the 18th. Police say that they have identified a group of suspects after a bomb threat was made toward South Haven High School on Wednesday morning. This unfolded quickly. 8:30 yesterday morning, South Haven Police Department confirmed a bomb threat had been made. All the students were moved to a safe location. By 8:50, 20 minutes later, a picture of 3 individuals that they believed were connected was released to the public. Showed these cats walking into a convenience store. By 9:50, an hour later, the department announced that all 3 subjects had been identified, and then they were arrested almost immediately. That is efficient. The statement from the South Haven Police Department said they had identified the 3 subjects thanks to the help of our citizens. Thanks for coming forward and making our city safer. Ceasefire text line. What splits easier, green wood or seasoned wood?
You don't want that super hard stuff. Yeah, that basically.
There's a sweet spot.
Yeah, you don't want the concrete wood.
Yeah,
sitting out in the sun for a year.
Yeah, there's definitely a sweet spot because if it's too wet, it doesn't want to split well. Yeah. It's like it tears.
Yeah. It's like fabric.
Yeah. Believe the Communist Party should be considered and labeled as a terrorist group in our country and want to remove and destroy the United States way of life. That's from Bob in Pontotoc. Good morning to you. We got more news and some sports headlines when we come back.
From the Seabrook.
Mornings with Richard Cross. What's up?
Let's get the show going.
Super Talk, Mississippi.
Mornings with Richard Cross, presented by Community Bank, rooted in our community, communitybank.net. The government shutdown has entered now its 37th day, breaking the record as the longest ever and disrupting the lives of millions of Americans with federal program cuts, flight delays, and federal workers left without paychecks. Donald Trump has refused to negotiate with Democrats over their demands to salvage expiring health insurance subsidies until they agree to reopen the government. Democrats question, though, whether the Republican president will keep his word, especially after the administration restricted SNAP food aid despite court orders to ensure funds are available to prevent hunger. It is not entirely true. Restricted it, yes. He certainly did not take it away. It's going to arrive late, and it's going to arrive smaller than normal. You remember Trump presided over the longest government shutdown in history in his previous administration, and he blamed the shutdown as a big negative factor for why the GOP lost those races on Tuesday. I don't think that was a good idea by Donald Trump. I'm no longer giving you a news story. I'm giving you an opinion. I don't think he should have blamed the shutdown or the losses in those gubernatorial races, Prop 50, etc., on the shutdown. Because I think he has now created this line of thinking from Democrats of, oh, they're having to own it. They think they lost the elections yesterday because they haven't reopened the government. I feel like the better message from Trump would have been, we didn't run good enough races in these states, but let's not kid ourselves. New Jersey, Virginia, New York, California, bunch of blue states anyway. Has nothing to do with the government shutdown.
Well, and there was a lot of reports I read as well on the Prop 50 deal where you could only vote yes. There were quite a few people that voted that said you couldn't even vote no. I mean, it was either yes or, so there was some hanky-panky.
Well, who's
And then the ballot in New York was lunacy. So I mean,
the ballot in California was a farce too. But
so, I mean, there's some of that in there too. I'm with you. I don't think you need to blame the losses on a shutdown or that he wasn't on the ballot. There was other things going on as well.
Right. But the government shutdown does need to end, and Trump continued to beat the drum with senators yesterday. He said it's time for Republicans to do what they have to do, and that's terminate the filibuster. The push is likely to go unmet by Republican senators, but could spur them to deal with the Democrats. And finally, in terms of news, one more for you. Local, state, and university officials gathered in Starkville yesterday to cut a celebratory ribbon for the dedication of the Jim and Thomas Duff Center at Mississippi State University. One of the school's largest academic buildings, the Duff Center is the new home for the university's Department of Kinesiology and key programs at the Mississippi Institute on Diabetes, the Autism and Developmental Disabilities Clinic and Access Program, along with some other specialized college services. Massive facility, a 3-story, 100,000 square foot building located on Bully Boulevard, named in honor of the brothers Duff, Jim and Tommy, whose $15 million cornerstone gift made the center a reality. And what they've done on college campuses across the state is remarkable. Big donations at Southern Miss, big donations at Ole Miss and at Mississippi State, and all of them driven toward facilities that are producing students who hopefully will stay right here in the state of Mississippi. It is time for your morning sports update right here on Mornings with Richard Cross, brought to you by the one and only Pearl River Resort. Online at pearlriverresort.com. Casino thrills, family fun, live entertainment, and a whole lot more, like great food, great golf, the sports book at Timeout Lounge, great winning there. Check them out, pearlriverresort.com. New members yesterday announced in this coming year's class for the Mississippi Sports Hall of Fame. Ceremony will be in August. It's kind of a year-long celebration. Here they are. Glenn Collins, a first-team All-American defensive lineman at Mississippi State, first-round draft pick of the Cincinnati Bengals back in 1982. Lewis Guy, a former All-SEC performer at Ole Miss, led the Rebels to a national and SEC championship in the early 1960s, went on to play with the New York Giants and the Oakland Raiders. And became an orthodontist in Jackson. Michael Haddix, two-time All-SEC running back at Mississippi State. He was the number 8 overall pick in the 1983 NFL Draft. Bobby Halford, the longtime William Carey baseball coach. More than 1,300 career wins, 7th most in NAIA history. 19 conference titles, 26 national tournament appearances, 2017 National Coach of the Year.
Man, it started playing baseball and basketball at William Carey back in 1972. Still on campus, man, winning games.
Ronnie Myers, swimming and diving coach and later athletic director at Delta State, 11 conference titles, 15 NCAA championship appearances, 56 All-Americans. Johnny Parker, a renowned strength and conditioning leader, coached for 35 years in college and pro ball, winning 3 Super Bowls with the New York Football Giants and Tampa Bay Buccaneers. His training methods influenced generations of coaches and athletes nationwide. And finally, Brittany Reese, one of the most decorated athletes in the history of the state of Mississippi, 4-time Olympian, 7-time world champion in the long jump. The Gulfport native won Olympic gold in 2012, silver in 2016 and 2021. 2-time NCAA champion in her time at Ole Miss, and one of the greatest long jumpers to ever live. What a great class. What a great class. Mississippi State opened its basketball season last night. The Dogs pulled away in the second half after what was a little bit of a ho-hum first half. Just a 1-point lead at the break, 38-37. Mississippi State opening the season with North Alabama. Second half, a little bit different story. Bulldogs outscored UNA 48-25 in the final 20 minutes. I know you're going to be shocked to know this, but Mississippi State was led in scoring last night by Josh Hubbard.
No.
Who could have thunk it? 27 points in 32 minutes last night for Hubbard. He was one of just 2 Bulldogs in double figures. The other, one of the new guys, Jabari McGee, had 14 in 23 minutes. There are going to be some new names to get to know on the Mississippi State roster this year. Your starting 5 was Acor, Quincy Ballard, Jaden Epps, Sean Jones, Josh Hubbard. A couple of names that you recognize and a couple that maybe less so. So 1-0 start for Mississippi State. Had a couple of college football games last night. Just a couple. Nothing crazy. Where are they? There they are. Ball State beat Kent State. Toledo smoked Northern Illinois 42-3. Pretty decent slate of games on Friday night. Houston's at UCF. Northwestern is at Southern Cal. And Tulane is at Memphis. And quickly, I'll give you your top 25 games for the upcoming weekend, or at least games involving top 25 teams. If you didn't know better, if you'd been sleeping under a rock, you might think it's a misprint. You might think that they have misplaced the number in front of the name. But no, they have not. It is number 2, Indiana, 9-0 on the year, at unranked 3-5 Penn State.
Penn State's winning this one. I'm kidding. They don't look that good to me.
Really?
No, I just don't think Penn State looks good. Indiana's going to smoke them.
Okay.
And it's going to be at Penn State.
I feel like you ran that out, and as soon as it came out of your mouth, you're like, "Oh, why did I say that?"
No, I mean, I was joking. I mean, Indiana looks like they look tough, man. And Penn State, they're reeling. So,
Battle of the Bulldogs in Starkville, 11 o'clock Saturday morning at Davis Wade Stadium. It's number 5 Georgia and Mississippi State. Also at 11 on ABC, number 7 BYU at number 8 Texas Tech. Number 1 Ohio State heads to West Lafayette, Indiana to take on Purdue. The Citadel's at Ole Miss. That's a noon kickoff, 2:30 ABC. Top 25 matchup, number 3 A&M at number 22 Mizzou. Number 9 Oregon is at number 20 Iowa. Syracuse is at number 18 Miami. Auburn at number 16 Vandy. That's enough. Oh, yeah, LSU at Alabama. Alabama ranked 4th. That's at 6:30 on ABC. Those are your sports headlines brought to you by Pearl River Resort. Online, pearlriverresort.com. Lottery update coming up next.
From the Venable Glass Traffic.
Super Talk Mississippi. And start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross. Here on Super Talk Mississippi.
Man, how beautiful have the mornings been the last couple of weeks?
Oh,
Crispness in the air to start the day, and then it warms up, and then it cools back off in the evening. Just right. Just right. And how wonderful would the mornings be if one of these mornings you woke up and pulled that ticket out of your pocket that you bought last night at the convenience store and realized that the numbers on your ticket matched the numbers that they drew for the lottery. That'd be pretty cool.
I would probably have a heart attack.
No jackpot winner last night for Powerball. $467 million for Saturday night's upcoming drawing with an estimated cash value of nearly $221 million. Last night's numbers, not good numbers. These were not good. 9, 17, 29, 61, 66. The Powerball was 26. Nobody had any shot with those numbers. Multiplier was 5. Just a bad combination. But that's not the only place that you can win. You got a big old Mega Millions drawing coming up on Friday night. So tomorrow, don't forget, you stop, get your ticket now. Those are $5. It's a little bit of an investment, but man, it's an investment that could pay off. $843 million. Estimated cash value, $391,700,000. Tuesday night's numbers were 11, 14, 17, 50, and 57. The Mega Ball was 6. Good luck if you play. Mississippi Lottery has kicked off the holiday season early with 3 brand new scratch-off games available in retailers now. From peppermint prizes to merry multipliers and chances to win thousands, these new games are full of holiday cheer. You've got the $2 Candy Cane Cash with top prizes up to $500. The $5 Merry Multiplier, packed with cheer and prizes up to $50,000. And then there's the $20 Full of 5,000s. The game is loaded with $5,000 prizes and top prizes of $100,000. C-Spire text line, how does Mississippi tax the lottery if you won the big one? Like regular income. Your winnings are subject to income tax.
Yeah, big income year there. You're going to get hit. Yes.
But, I mean, that means you're paying 4% on it. So I've played around with the math a lot on this just because I'm weird. Your top federal bracket, your highest federal bracket is 37%, 37%. And then you get hit with 4% on top of that. So you'd pay 40% on your winnings, which is a really depressing number, but then you realize it's a really big number and you're thankful for all that. I'll double check on that federal. Highest.
And the same with the annuity. You're going to get taxed, annually on each payment that you get for both your federal and your Mississippi taxes. That's going to differ from your lump sum payment, obviously, because you're paying it all at once versus spread over the life of however you have it spread. So.
Well, and here's your reminder. Should you win, 1, congratulations. 2, you need to go hire a tax attorney, a CPA, and a financial planner, and maybe one other attorney.
Yeah. Well, and you also, the withholding in Mississippi, I believe, and I had to double check it, Mississippi has a state tax withholding rate of 3% on lottery winnings over $600. It's also withheld at the time of payment. Mississippi treats the winnings as ordinary income, and the 3% withholding is applied to each payment that you receive.
So you get hit with the 3% withholding, but then you are responsible for that other percent if you're taxed at 4% at the state income level or 5% previously. Right?
I believe so.
Because it's ordinary income. Mm-hmm. Same way, that's like you win a big prize at a casino. I guess it's that over $600, and you go to cash out, and they take 3% of it that goes to the state just right off the top. Then you're responsible for federal and any additional state. But make sure they get theirs right out of the gate.
Well, and, when you take the annuity, generally that's going to be locked in. So that's where there's, people like J.G. Wentworth will buy your fixed payments. If you won a lottery and you chose the annuity option, and say 10 years later, you go, I really don't want to keep receiving payments. Mm-hmm. It's you generally can't go back to the lottery and go, I want a lump sum now.
No.
So you got to get a third party to buy and they'll generally discount it a bit, but that's how you get out of the annuity in the long run. If you're wanting the lump sum eventually and you didn't want it out of the gate.
Look, you get one of those big prizes, even with the tax implications, even with the lump sum versus the annuity that reduces the big jackpot. You're talking a lot of money. And even with really conservative investing, the rule of sevens or the rule of eights, depending on which where you kind of fall from an interest standpoint, applies, in which your money doubles every 7 or 8 years. Compound interest is a beautiful thing. A beautiful, beautiful thing. Or you can just blow it all and go broke and have a good time while you do it. It's your money. Do whatever you want with it. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi. News is next. Then we roll into the 7 o'clock hour.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on this show are not the opinions of TeleSouth Communications, its management, or advertisers.
Take a deep dive into the news and debates driving the day, all on your ride to work. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi.
Good morning to you. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi. Thanks for joining us. Mornings with Richard Cross is presented by Community Bank, rooted in our community, communitybank.net. At Community Bank, we're here for every part of your financial journey. Looking to manage your personal finances? Our banking services make it simple, secure, and tailored to you. Ready to grow your business? We offer expert guidance and custom solutions to help your business thrive. Dreaming of a new home? Our mortgage specialists are here to make the process seamless, all designed with you in mind. We're more than just a bank. We're your partner for life's biggest moments. Community Bank, rooted in our community, member FDIC, equal housing lender. This hour of the show is brought to you by MWG Employer Services. Running a business is tough, and if you're struggling with HR, benefits, and payroll, you are not alone. That's where MWG Employer Services comes in. They can provide a full range of employer services, plus a custom plan that fits you. Give them a call today, 601-206-7966, or go to mwgemployerservices.com. Christopher Green is going to join us coming up in the next segment. You may remember him as a law professor at Ole Miss. He is now at The Ohio State University. We'll talk with him about what's going on with the Supreme Court. Two pretty significant things that are happening right now. One, you've got a case pending, right? The Louisiana versus Calais case. And then also yesterday, Supreme Court justices heard arguments about the Trump tariffs and the legality of those as it pertains to the, the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, declaring national emergencies under that. Don't know how this is going to go, but do know that it is very, very significant. So much of the economic policy and the global policy in terms of negotiation for the United States has kind of hinged on the idea of tariffs and using them as a tool in the toolbox. I'm not sure that the Trump administration and its lawyers got the reception that they were hoping yesterday to get from SCOTUS, as there were some pretty pointed questions. Majority of the court questioned President Trump's novel use of an emergency powers law to impose worldwide tariffs. The court, with 3 justices appointed by Trump, who are generally favorable to the presidency and presidential power, could find that he exceeded his authority. This is the first Trump policy that is before the court for a final decision, and the stakes are enormous. The Republican president has made tariffs a central piece of his economic and his foreign policy, and he himself has said it would be a disaster if the Supreme Court rules against him. So Justices Amy Coney Barrett and Neil Gorsuch, both Trump appointees, and Chief Justice John Roberts appeared the most likely, quote, conservative, close quote, judges to rule against the president. I think you can pretty much count on Samuel Alito and Clarence Thomas to vote in favor of Trump's ability to use tariffs. The Constitution gives Congress the power to impose tariffs, but Trump has claimed extraordinary power without congressional approval by declaring national emergencies. In February, so 9 months ago, he invoked the law to impose tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and China, saying that the illegal flow of immigrants and drugs across the U.S. border amounted to a national emergency and that the three countries needed to do more to stop it. In April, he imposed worldwide tariffs after declaring the United States' longstanding trade deficits a national emergency. Chief Justice John Roberts didn't seem sure that Trump has the power. The law has, as he said, never before been used to justify tariffs. No one has argued that it does until this particular case. That's what John Roberts said to the Solicitor General John Sauer. There is hope for Trump, at least a glimmer, when you listen to the questioning that the judges had. And by the way, the Supreme Court operates differently. It's not like where you've got lawyers that are questioning witnesses. They are arguing their case and receiving questions from the justices, and sometimes the justices opine. Both Barrett and Roberts asked questions indicating at least some unease about how the case should come out. Brett Kavanaugh, Samuel Alito, and Clarence Thomas could very well support the administration. Story from the AP says that Kavanaugh led Sauer in some friendly questioning about 10% worldwide tariffs imposed by President Nixon under a predecessor to the IEEPA that used very similar language. Kavanaugh said that understanding Nixon's tariffs is real important to deciding this case correctly. There was a quote in here where he says, "Doesn't it seem like it would make sense then that Congress would want the president to use something that was weaker medicine than completely shutting down trade as leverage to try to get a foreign nation to do something?" The other thing that's interesting in this tariffs case is the Supreme Court may do something that it doesn't do very often, and that is move quickly. They only agreed to hear this case back in September, scheduling arguments 2 months later, and that could be a suggestion that the court will move quickly. In many cases, high-profile cases can take half a year or more to decide because the majority and dissenting opinions go through multiple rounds of revisions. The most recent case in which we've seen the Supreme Court move quickly happened in the arguments involving the TikTok case, in which the Supreme Court unanimously upheld a law requiring the popular social media app to be banned unless it was sold by its Chinese parent company. Trump has intervened a number of times. Ceasefire text line, 601-879-4395. Sounds like SCOTUS is no different than anything else. Rigged, bought, and paid for. Anything Trump does for the good. Some judges say no. I'd like to know when the courts and judges were elected to the White House. I think you're conflating two things there, actually. Federal judges and Supreme Court judges, I mean, you know, obviously are not the same thing. But federal judges have, on a much more frequent basis, been extremely partisan in their rulings. And we've seen that over and over again, and it appears that James Boasberg, one of the federal judges that has been a thorn in the side of Donald Trump, is going to be, what's the word? Censured is not the right word. It's not indicted. They're looking at removing him. It's not treason. Impeached. Impeachment is what they are considering for James Boasberg. Thomas in Greenwood says he has no problem calling for Congress to eliminate the filibuster, so call for Congress to enact tariffs and avoid this issue. The presidential power debate that they're looking at here is incredibly significant. What does the president have the power to unilaterally do? Do laws that are currently on the books, does precedent allow for the president to use this? So back to the question about being bought and paid for. I don't think the Supreme Court is bought and paid for. And here, the thing about the makeup of this Supreme Court, it largely has been friendly to Donald Trump. I mentioned a second ago, Clarence Thomas, Samuel Alito, you can pretty much count on them siding with the president all the time. Ketanji Brown is going to side against the president almost every time. There are a lot of people that say the Chief Justice, John Roberts, has been an incredible disappointment for conservatives. Significant decision here for the Supreme Court. And I think it's significant to remember that this Supreme Court has not just unilaterally supported everything Donald Trump has wanted. There have been injunctions that have gone in his favor and some that have gone against him. We'll talk more about this with Christopher Green coming up next. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
If you ever be mine, I'll make love to you any old time.
From the Venable Glass.
From Duck Hill to Alligator, Mississippians start their day the right way. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Great mama, where you been so long?
Great to be with you this morning. Quick reminder of the makeup of the Supreme Court. Chief Justice John Roberts was appointed by George W. Bush. Clarence Thomas, an associate justice, was appointed in 1991 by George H.W. Bush. Samuel Alito was a George W. Bush appointee. Sonia Sotomayor was appointed by Obama. Elena Kagan was appointed by Obama. Neil Gorsuch was a Donald Trump first-term appointee, as was Brett Kavanaugh. Amy Coney Barrett, first-term Trump appointee. And then Ketanji Brown Jackson was a Biden appointee. That's the makeup currently of the United States Supreme Court. Christopher Green joins us now, former law professor at Ole Miss and currently the assistant director at the Chase Center for Civics, Culture, and Society at the Ohio State University. Professor, Director, Christopher, good morning. How are you?
Doing well. Not sure how happy the president is about this oral argument, but it's always interesting. So the more interesting it is, the law professors of the world, I always have more to look forward to.
Does this make you like a weather guy when a hurricane is approaching?
A little bit. I mean, you really do wonder if a butterfly in California, something that annoys one of the justices about something the president says or something in the news, you may think, well, we need emergency power. You really wonder if it's going to make them more inclined to favor one argument. People did a study of whether people were inclined to favor asylum claims based on whether it was in the morning or the evening or the afternoon. And being sleepy after lunchtime can sometimes affect it, maybe. But I think it's a tough case. So little things about the details of this statute and how it got passed, attitudes toward Nixon, that kind of thing could affect it.
And so really the question that the court is exploring, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, is the level of power that the president has in terms of using the Emergency Powers Act, a ruling an act that was enacted in the late 70s to impose tariffs. And he's done that as a way to punish Mexico and Canada and China for drugs coming into the United States, fentanyl in particular. And then he's used those powers more broadly as it relates to kind of the deficit, the debt load that the United States is carrying, calling that a national emergency. Are these arguments that it feels like are going to hold up, or is this overreach by the president?
I think he's probably going to lose. It seems likely that this is sufficiently different from other uses of the statute. So this is a statute, IEPA, International Economic Emergency, or something like that. But basically, the word that they're construing is the word regulate. So the president is allowed to regulate trade, and it hasn't been used. This statute hasn't been used to say you're allowed to import things, but with a fee. So there was a bunch of discussion about whether this is a tax, whether it's a kind of selling somebody a license, the exact terminology. It's hard to see exactly why the exact terminology matters. But essentially, this is there's a concession by both sides that the president could completely shut down trade with somebody. So if you're like, oh, my goodness, there's all this dangerous stuff coming across the border, stop it. And a complete halt would be okay. But essentially, there's this old case that says the power to tax is the power to destroy. This is sort of the opposite of that, whether the power to destroy commerce is the power to tax it. And there's, the fact that there is a bigger power there. A lot of justices, said, why doesn't it include the smaller one? This would be kind of odd. It'd be like a donut. And there are a bunch of discussion about whether it's a donut or whether it's a croissant or, what shape this statute is. But it is an unusual, massive use of this power that if you say the president has it, he really has complete control over commerce. That's something the Congress is supposed to have, and the whole point of having a commerce power relative to the British system, the King George III, had complete control over commerce. He could just have regulations of commerce, and the point of Article 1, Section 8, Clause 3 is to take that power and give it to Congress. So saying, we're going to take this Emergency Act and view it as essentially giving power, like virtually unfettered, complete power over commerce back to the president, that has plausibility that you're pushing uphill. It's I think a heavy lift to make it. They might be able to make it based on the terminology, based on the weirdness of leaving out a taxing type power. But I would bet at maybe if you give me 2-to-1 odds, I think I'd bet against the president.
So we've talked before about the makeup of the court, and generally speaking, a conservative or Republican president can count on Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito to rule in favor of Republican policies. Not always, but generally speaking. You pretty much know that Kagan and Sotomayor and Ketanji Brown Jackson are going to rule on more liberal policies or fall more in line with the arguments of Democrats. And it turns into those kind of 3-4 swing votes in the middle with Gorsuch and Amy Coney Barrett. And I guess Kavanaugh probably would align more with Alito and Thomas on most issues. And then John Roberts. Is this one of those issues that may be partisan in nature, or do you think this is going to be more of the Supreme Court is really looking at this from the standpoint of the precedent set here matters far beyond the time in which Donald Trump is in the Oval Office?
Well, that's a big question. So I think there's a difference. There's kind of a tug both ways in terms of the president and this doctrine called non-delegation. So this non-delegation doctrine really the court was not very energetic about it last spring. Actually, so this is the idea that Congress can't give legislative power or something that's the functional equivalent of legislative power to the president. And Justices Thomas and Alito actually were more energetic about saying, hey, there's limits. They and Gorsuch last spring said, hey, we need more substantial limits on what you can give the president. Justice Gorsuch yesterday was very energetic, saying, hey, this is letting the barn door completely open to delegation of the president. So it's very much the same view he had last spring. He's written to himself in this big 2019 case. On the other hand, you had all three liberal justices who were, Justice Kagan especially, very energetic in favor of allowing delegation to the president last spring. But yesterday, even Justice Kagan was, talking about the very precedent she was writing and saying, well, we could say that a taxation situation was different. So it is, I think there is a tension between the kind of long-term intellectual goals. There are somewhat medium-term questions about the president in general. There's also just a question of pragmatically, what are you going to do? How worried are you that this massive amount of executive power is going to fall into hands that might be less simpatico? So I thought there was a great meme. Somebody from Lord of the Rings kind of taking Bilbo thinking about throwing away the ring or not giving it to Frodo. So, well, why shouldn't I keep it? And the ring has a little label, executive power. Should we really insist on strong limits on executive power, saying Congress is the only one who can do it, so that we don't have so much ride on who is elected president every 4 years? We're not rolling a die about Caesarism in such a risky way. I think there is something to be said just in terms of worries about huge amounts of executive power. Independent of the statute, just the general worry about one leader doing too much, that could be a third factor. So the two of those factors, the non-delegation idea and then the practical worries about Caesarism, and then kind of how well you like the president, those may be pulling in all different directions. So I think several of them have two in one way and one in the other.
Christopher Green is my guest. Do you have time to hang on for another segment?
Sure.
Okay. A couple of things I want to get to. I want us to talk about the makeup of the court and how the idea of the elimination of the filibuster, being called the nuclear option, could change the makeup of the court in future elections. And then I also want us to get into Louisiana versus Calais, the federal districting Voter Rights Act appeal, kind of all rolled into one. We'll talk about that on the other side of the timeout. Who knew that Supreme Court conversation could be so interesting and so big? And it certainly is big right now. Take a quick time out. It's Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk, Mississippi. Christopher Green is my guest. He currently is the Assistant Director of the Chase Center for Civics, Culture, and Society at Ohio State, former law professor at Ole Miss. We're back with you on the other side of this timeout. More MRC after this. This segment of Mornings with Richard Cross is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
Good morning, Mississippi. You're starting your day off right. Welcome to Mornings with Richard Cross here on Super Talk, Mississippi.
I think there are a lot of times where conversation about the Supreme Court is, if we're being honest, it's just kind of boring. That is not the case right now, as there are some massive cases before the Supreme Court that are going to have a huge effect on the future of the United States and where it stands globally and how it operates globally. Christopher Green is my guest. He is at Ohio State now, the Ohio State University, assistant director of the Chase Center for Civics, Culture, and Society. And I appreciate you hanging with me through the break. So much conversation during the government shutdown from the president about the Senate invoking the nuclear option, which is the elimination of the filibuster. It's that kind of check and balance all rolled into one where you've got the 60-vote threshold to get legislation through the Senate. Trump suggesting that senators should suspend this or eliminate the filibuster so that they can get legislation passed, meaningful legislation passed. We know that Democrats are kind of putting up a roadblock for that at every single turn. But people quickly point out to the unintended consequences of that if Donald Trump uses this, then it kind of paves the way for future presidents to use it as well. Christopher, I suppose as it pertains to the Supreme Court, Democrats have talked about wanting to pack the court, enlarge the number of justices that are there so that perhaps more favorable rulings would fall their way based on the current makeup of the court. How risky, in your mind, is this elimination of the filibuster idea that senators seem so hesitant to use?
Yeah, so individual senators get a lot more power under a filibuster rule. So there are just more veto gates. And it's a general question of constitutional design. How many veto gates do you want to have? So how many people are you going to have to persuade in order to do something? Generally speaking, so a parliamentary system where you just have a single group and you only have to have majority of that one body, I think most people say it's easier to make mistakes, but it's also easier to fix them. And a system where you've got you got a House and the Senate, the bicameral system that we've adopted, makes it harder to make mistakes, but also harder to fix them. And when one of them, and actually the House used to have a filibuster rule, supermajority requirement, and basically the Republicans got rid of that in 1875 in order to pass the Civil Rights Act of 1875. So ever since then, it's been a little easier to get things through the House. It has an interesting effect with what the Supreme Court might do, because if the Supreme Court says you can only do something through Congress, the more difficult it is to get things through Congress, the more dangerous that is. So if you said, hey, unless it's really an emergency, something that just came up in the last year, something where you need secrecy or something like that, unless it's one of those, Congress has to do it. The more you're worried about a logjam in Congress, the more hesitant you're going to be as Supreme Court to do that. But if they start talking about getting rid of that 60-vote threshold, and they used to have a 67-vote threshold, used to have a 2/3, they brought that down to 3/5. If they went down to a majority, you still would have a very conservative system because you have two houses. But the individual senators would lose power. I mean, I think the majority leader and the minority leader in the Senate would gain power relative to those members. And yeah, I guess if you're a senator, you kind of like that power. The patronage power would still be huge. So it's hard to know exactly how it would shake out. The Democrats would have to make a deal to prevent the filibuster from being reformed. At some point, they're going to have to turn the government back on. And the tougher the Democrats are, the more likely it is that's going to be through filibuster reform.
Really interesting to see. General question about the Supreme Court, and this seems to be an idea, at least right now, that is more one of the Democrats, and that is either term limits or growing the size of the court. Are we at a place where it still makes sense for Supreme Court justices to receive lifetime appointments, or should there be some sort of a term limit?
Well, so some people think you can adopt a term limit by a statute. I think that's kind of silly, really. If you look at the Constitution, it says you have life tenure. I guess, some people say, there were, life expectancy was so much less in the 18th century. There actually were a lot of people who lived a long time. So there were a lot of judges that had life tenure that were on courts for 30, 40 years. Generally speaking, it has. I mean, it's a more conservative aspect of the American constitutional system. It ties us to the past in a certain way. So if you think of kind of a democracy of the dead, well, these decisions made by people electing senators a generation ago, they're going to have an impact on the composition of the court for 30, 40 years sometimes. And I think that, that has some advantages in terms of stability. They are on that court for a long time, though. And I think if you had a bigger court where you had, a few people from 30, 40 years ago, but you made it bigger so it's, on 15 or 17 people, if you could have a genuine conversation where you got argument and counter-argument, I think there are advantages to that system. So if you could get into that system where it wasn't just a matter of like one president plopping another 10 people on the court or something, that really would be destabilizing and bad. But if you said like every president gets an appointment every 2 years, I think that would be a not crazy thing to do. It would avoid one thing. It would avoid this negotiation where you have someone like Justice Kennedy saying, "Well, I'll retire, but only if you appoint my favorite clerks to succeed me." Or you have Justice Ginsburg holding on longer than she could, hoping to hold on to get Hillary to appoint her successor, that kind of thing. Right. I mean, a lifetime appointment is long enough, but this kind of self-perpetuated, quasi-self-perpetuating power of timing your retirement, I really think that's unseemly and just way too much power for these justices. As anti-federalist Brutus said, if you give judges this much power, they're going to feel themselves independent of every power under heaven, and soon enough, independent of heaven itself. And a lot of what the courts have done gives you that vibe that Brutus was right. But can trim back. It's hard to come up with a compromise where you're trimming them back a little bit, but not just wholesale, making them subject to the current president. So FDR tried that, and he got a massive political defeat. I think most of the Democrats that propose it find that the population is strongly against them. So if this is the big plank in the 2026 elections, I would think the Democrats would be harmed by it. Just keep calm and don't do anything drastic is likely to be a more winning strategy. Also, and the president's almost certainly going to lose this birthright citizenship case at some point. So a lot of the wind out of the sails of the anti-court vibe is going to happen. So I don't see a lot of people being super angry at the court in 2026, but you never know. The president himself might be super angry if he loses this tariff case. So you could have some strange bedfellows where the president suddenly decides, all these people I appointed, they're losers and haters, and I gotta get another 10 people. I don't think you can get the Senate to come along, but it could be a big part of the campaign if certain strange things happen.
Last thing for you, only about 2 minutes left. Louisiana versus Calais, a huge case. It feels like the court is leaning in the direction of siding with the state of Louisiana. I guess at issue here, the redrawing of congressional district lines based on race as it pertains to the Voter Rights Act. What's your sense here?
Yeah, I think that's right. It does seem they proposed this additional question, and it looks like they have in mind an answer based on the hostility to racial balkanization in their general 14th Amendment jurisprudence. I think there are some problems at the foundations of saying 14th Amendment covers voting, but they are not in a radical mood to rip those cords up. So you just have this doctrine about racial gerrymandering, and it really does seem to be at odds with the vibe of the Voting Rights Act. You could construe the Voting Rights Act narrowly, or you can say, this preference for racially drawn districts is unconstitutional. But it does seem like there might be some significant changes afoot. There's different coalitions. It's not like it's directly taking away people's rights to vote. You might see some interesting appeals from the Republicans to African American voters as a result. But like Badgett says, you change voting rules, it's hard to say what the outcomes are going to be.
Covered a lot of ground. Christopher, I really appreciate your time and your insight this morning. We'll be keeping a close eye on SCOTUS over the next few weeks and months, and always a pleasure to visit with you. Hope all is well in Ohio.
Thanks for talking. It's exciting stuff coming.
All right, we'll catch up with you down the line. Christopher Green, Assistant Director at the Chase Center for Civics, Culture, and Society at Ohio State, former law professor at Ole Miss and friend of the program, Mornings with Richard Cross. We've got more coming up with you. We're going to take a quick time out. We will wrap up the 7 o'clock hour next. It's MRC on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
From the Venable Glass.
Want to know what's being said in the halls of the Capitol? You're in the right place. Mornings with Richard Cross continues on Super Talk, Mississippi.
To the big voice of David about want to know what's said in the halls of the Capitol, we will get to something that happened in the Capitol yesterday, a JLBC meeting. If you don't know what that is, I don't blame you. The Joint Legislative Budget Committee here in Mississippi met yesterday or the day before and have adjusted fiscal year revenue estimates for Mississippi. We'll get into that in the 8 o'clock hour coming up in just a little bit. I want to get to some of your messages because a lot of you chiming in on the Supreme Court conversation on the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395. Ready for the best Black Friday and Cyber Monday deals? Well, those are live right now at C Spire. Like any new iPhone, up to $1,000 off with trade-in, plus a free Apple Watch SE to go with it. Or for Samsung fans, you can get the new Galaxy S25 free today. No trade-in needed. The best Black Friday and Cyber Monday deals go fast, so don't wait. Shop now at cspire.com or visit your local C Spire store today. C Spire, customer inspired. Let's see here. We got a lot. As the justices stated yesterday, if Trump can do this, then a future Democrat president could claim a climate emergency and put a tariff on all gas engines. From JD in the Delta, Christopher explaining this judging on a level that everyone can understand. His explanation was not political leaning, just this is what it's about and what he thinks the outcome might be. Great guest. Yeah, if you listen closely to Christopher, you can tell that he has not just current knowledge, but historical knowledge as it pertains to the makeup of the Supreme Court, what the founders were looking for, what judicial review people have had to say through the years. His perspective when it comes to the way the Supreme Court operates, the way they rule, why they rule the way they rule is fascinating. Always appreciate his time. Here's another message. Trump said that all the trade deals are unfair between the United States and other countries, so why can't tariffs be used to right the wrong, whether they are fair or unfair to other countries? He's trying to save a country that has been abused by our politicians taking kickbacks from other countries for years, using our tax dollars to play with. I think there's a lot of truth there, but regardless of how you or I or anybody else feels about this president or any president righting wrongs, as you phrased it in your message, we still have law. We still have tradition, but when I say tradition, I don't mean from the standpoint of, all of our family gets together to celebrate the holidays. Not that type of tradition, but judicial tradition and the way things are carried from administration to administration. And we've got statute, and we've got the Constitution. And so while, yes, we may love the idea, and when I say we, I'm using that collectively about this president or any president. We, being Republicans supportive of Trump and everything that he tries to do, may be supportive of the idea of Trump righting wrongs. In the same way that we, as Democrats or more liberal-leaning people, may support all of the efforts of Barack Obama in terms of righting wrongs. But that's kind of the beauty of the Supreme Court and the Constitution. We don't get to go along with the whims of whoever our guy is in office for the sake of righting wrongs, because righting wrongs a lot of time is in the eye of the beholder. And so that's why you have 60% thresholds in the Senate, where it's more difficult to get laws through than it is in the House. That's why you have the Supreme Court, whose job is to interpret the Constitution in terms of their rulings on what is legal and what isn't legal. I certainly get where you're coming from. Ron in Ocean Springs says the Washington Examiner has an article saying that the SCOTUS seems set to rule 6-3 against tariff legality. Don't know which way that news outlet leans, or if they got their crystal ball from Amazon or Temu. I think Thomas made a couple of good points. Says the nature of man comes into play here when we're talking about the Supreme Court. He says we all want stuff to get done when our guy is in charge, and gridlock when the other guy is in charge. I'll settle for my guy getting less done if that means the other guy is constrained when he is in charge. There's some wisdom in that. Thomas also said, I don't want justices who are beholden to the one who appointed them. And maybe that is ultimately the argue for not having term limits, for having those lifetime appointments that were put into place in the 1800s and have carried the day since. Great conversation. Appreciate your interaction on the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395. We're going to start the 8 o'clock hour with Danielle Alvarez, a senior advisor at the RNC.
Get the inside track on Mississippi politics. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
8 o'clock hour. Thanks for joining us. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. You can connect with the show on the C Spire text line at 601-879-4395. 601-879-4395. One last reminder for you. Exciting news for Starkville. Community Bank has officially opened their newest location at 403 Russell Street. Mark your calendar for today. In fact, at this point, just set a reminder for this afternoon. They're hosting their grand opening celebration from 4 until 6:30. Enjoy food, drinks, connect with the Community Bank team, and enter for your chance to win a $2,500 cash prize, along with some other great prizes that are going to be available. It's a great opportunity to connect with a bank known for its commitment to local service and community values. Don't miss it. Community Bank, a bank like no other, member FDIC. Thanks for joining us this morning. Appreciate all of your interaction on the C Spire text line. Happy to welcome Danielle Alvarez to the conversation this morning. She's a senior advisor with the RNC and first-time guest on Mornings with Richard Cross. Danielle, good morning.
Good morning. It's great to be on with you.
Thanks. I appreciate some of your time. There was a word that was thrown around a lot yesterday, and I feel like it's one of those political words that sometimes gets used when we talk about bellwether. It's going to be a bellwether for the 2026 midterms, talking about the results of some of the elections. I'm not 100% sure that I'm on board with that. We got a lot of time between now and November of 2026. What do the elections of Democrat governors in New Jersey and Virginia and the passage of Prop 50 by such a wide margin and Mamdani in New York City as mayor, what do those say to you about 2026 in the midterms?
First, I think that we need to acknowledge that these are blue states. If you look at the data of the way that movers have left Virginia and come into Virginia. Virginia has become more blue. Of course, we don't have voter registration data, but we do have movers data in the state of Virginia and the Commonwealth. Of course, in the state of New Jersey, we have voter registration by party affiliation. As of August 2025, we knew that Democrats had a delta of 160,000 more registered Democrats than Republicans, again, in the state of New Jersey. We also know California, New York City, very deep blue. So going into these elections, we knew they were uphill battles. We knew that they were elections that were going to be tough, that we likely were not going to win. Of course, we don't want to be completely dismissive. There are lessons to be learned about the elections from Tuesday. And that is that affordability is top of mind for voters. If you look at what President Trump had been doing, he had been truthing about energy prices in New Jersey for weeks prior to the elections. Now, unfortunately, the candidates were not focused on those messages. The Democrats were, and I think that that's why you saw those victories. I do believe that that is the lesson learned as we head into these midterms, as we're talking to our Republican candidates looking towards November.
To me, the outcome that was most disappointing had nothing to do with governors or mayors or props on the ballots, but the people of Virginia choosing to put Jay Jones into office after the text messages that were revealed. How did that happen? I mean, I know there was no denunciation per se beyond just, oh, yes, he shouldn't have said that from Democrat officials, from congressional people to more local people. But ultimately, the Virginia people, the people of the state of Virginia, the Commonwealth of Virginia, said, we're okay with putting this guy in office. Well, why did that happen? How did that happen?
I think you're exactly right. What Jay Jones said was vile. It was disgusting. It should not have happened. And it should have been denounced in the strongest terms by Democrats across the country and certainly up and down the ticket in Virginia. One of the interesting things that happened timing wise is votes had already been there were votes already being cast in Virginia when those text messages became public. So there was already ballots being cast, already votes in the bank for Jay Jones. The other interesting thing about it, and it's something that I was not expecting, I maybe was expecting drop off in the race after those text messages came to light. Drop off in the ticket, voters who go out, vote for the top of the ticket, vote for the governor, but maybe will not vote for the attorney general. There were actually ticket splitters in a time of very hyper-partisan politics where you would think a voter would go out and vote straight down the ticket Democrat, straight down the ticket Republican. We saw a lot of ticket splitting because of the vile comments that Jay Jones made. And so there was a huge difference in the vote getting between Abigail Spanberger at the top of the ticket and Jay Jones. But you're absolutely right. It was disappointing to see a win by Jay Jones after those horrific comments.
A lot of conversation right now about the nuclear option in the Senate, talking about the removal of the filibuster. The president has been adamant that it is time to do that so that this administration can get legislation passed. I thought the way he framed his argument with senators yesterday at that Republican Senate breakfast was fascinating. Let's do so much good and get so much legislation passed that we're unbeatable. I kind of felt like that's the way that he was framing it. Senators, though, so very reticent to go down that road of eliminating the filibuster, and all of them pointing to, yeah, but what could the next guy do if we get rid of this now? What's the temperature in D.C., especially within the RNC, about this idea of eliminating the filibuster that the president so badly seems to want to do right now?
Those conversations are happening between the president and, of course, senators and Senate leadership. The reality is that both things are true. You do have to worry about the abuse of power that Democrats have demonstrated. We saw it certainly during the Biden administration. We know that if and when the pendulum swings back, they can abuse those powers again. It is something that, from my understanding, senators are having serious discussions about. I also understand President Trump's frustration. He is dealing with Democrats who forget the mandate that he received in November when he won every single battleground state, the popular vote, won the House and won the Senate. And they just oppose. The Trump derangement syndrome has absolutely rotted their brains. And they have nothing to offer the American people. They just want to oppose everything that President Trump does. He's a doer. He's a builder. He's a businessman. So I understand his frustration when he says, I just want to get things done. He was on pace, 8 peace accords, shutting down the border, deporting illegal immigrants, pulling the levers of the economy. And then suddenly Democrats shut the government down. They have voted down a clean continuing resolution. For your listeners, just means we're going to fund the government at the levels we've previously funded it while we have negotiations about how we fund the government moving forward. Democrats are unwilling to do that. They want to hold the American people hostage. The whip of the Democrats said that this suffering, the American people's suffering, is going to be Democrats' leverage. And that frustrates the president. So I know those conversations are being very seriously had.
14 times now, senators have voted not to pass that clean resolution, that clean continuing resolution that would reopen the government. So what does that conversation look like? We saw the letter yesterday from Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer demanding an audience with the president for bipartisan talks, which is kind of rich in and of itself, to reopen the government. Will the president and will House and Senate leadership hold firm on, yes, we are absolutely willing to reopen it, but we're not going to do it staring down the barrel of a gun. We're not going to negotiate before the government reopens.
I never want to get ahead of the president or speak on his behalf.
It's probably a good idea.
But the reality is, it's really tough when Democrats don't want to negotiate in good faith, when they don't want to do the thing that, as you mentioned, they have done 14 times before. Vote for a clean continuing resolution. Fund the government at the levels that it's previously been funded so that we don't have to have this government shutdown while we are having negotiations about future appropriations. I think it's really a shame on the Democrats' part. But I know that the president and his team are having conversations about how we can end this government shutdown, how we can get back to work for the American people. He's just a brilliant man. When the military was not going to receive their paychecks, he found a way to get it done. He always has something that he's working on, something up his sleeve. I know that top of mind for him, again, is reopening this government, getting the economy working. And again, those affordability issues. If you're listening to what's coming out of the White House in the last few weeks and certainly in the last 24 hours, it's all about affordability. It's what the president campaigned on. It's what he is going to deliver.
Well, and it feels like for midterms, that better be the message that that candidates across the Republican ticket, the GOP ticket, go with as well. Affordability and safety, those were big winners just 10 months ago.
I think that that's exactly right. And as you dissect the messaging from the campaigns leading up to Tuesday, you had a candidate in Winsome Earl-Sears who talked a lot about transgender ideology. And what we were doing is we weren't listening to voters. Voters were saying that it wasn't just the economy that was top of mind. Again, it was those affordability issues. Even in the president's successful 2024 campaign, when the president was talking about the left's transgender ideology, he was talking about misplaced resources. Kamala Harris wanted to fund sex change surgeries for individuals in prison.
Smart with the money.
Instead of helping American taxpayer dollars. So again, we really need to make sure as Republicans that we don't have a conclusion we're trying to back into, and that we are following the data and we are really listening to what voters want. And I know that that's what this president and our candidates are really good at.
Danielle Alvarez, Senior Advisor with the RNC. Thanks so much for your time. Let's do this again.
Thank you for having me.
From the Venable Glass.
SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Has got you going crazy. It's time to get out. Step out into the street where all of the action is right there at your feet. Well, I know a place where we can dance the whole night away underneath electric stars. Just come with me and we can shake your blues right away. You'll be doing fine once the music starts. Oh, to the beat of the rhythm of the night.
Appreciate Danielle Alvarez joining us, Senior Advisor at the RNC. Good conversation with her. Glad to be with you this morning. It is Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi, streaming online at supertalk.fm. SuperTalk TV, available to you as a podcast wherever you grab your podcasts. You can get MRC on the go so that you can listen at your convenience. Let's hit this quickly because I know this is of interest to many of you that are YouTube TV users. This was from a story at The Athletic. Despite the outsized impact on sports fans, neither of these companies, YouTube TV, which is owned by Google, or ESPN, which is owned by Disney, neither of these companies really needs a deal to happen immediately. Which is to say that their parent companies, Disney and Alphabet, respectively, are behemoths, and even if ESPN is losing $5 million a day, and even if YouTube TV is losing subscribers, hand over fist, not really a big deal because they get so much cash. The story also said, I've seen plenty of people wonder if this is a ploy by ESPN to drive people to its new direct-to-consumer app to watch games, perhaps in part. But Andrew Marchand at The Athletic says it really doesn't make financial sense. He says eventually YouTube TV and ESPN will have a deal. The fact that they blew past college football last weekend and then Monday Night Football is not an encouraging sign. YouTube TV's 10 million subscribers are a significant number. At this point, it's hard to see how YouTube TV could have much of a business without ESPN, while ESPN also needs YouTube TV. So a deal will happen, just a matter of when. I wish I could tell you exactly when that will be, but no one can. So,
yeah, let's just mess TV up, too, while we're at it. Let's see what else we can parlay into that.
What that says to me is, even though I didn't make a switch to a different streaming provider last week, I'm going to today. Whether it's a permanent switch or not, I'm kind of agnostic on the brands. I'm used to YouTube TV, but I don't have to have it. And so if I switch to Hulu or Fubo or DirecTV Stream or whatever, if YouTube TV gets their act together, I might go back to it. Or I might decide that I like the new one and, hey, let's just roll with that. The idea that you're going to save money with any of these things, though, is kind of silly. You might for a little while, but then they're just going to add and increase. And you get to a point, 6 months or a year in where you're like, I'm paying exactly what I was paying before. Or I'm paying more than I was paying before because of all the streaming services. So I just was going to pass that along in case you think that the deal between YouTube TV and ESPN is really, really close. Doesn't sound like it. Gary in Tishomingo says, yeah, I dropped it and kept my DirecTV package. A lot of others have as well. Let's see. Where do we want to go here next? I mentioned this in the, I guess, the end of the 7 o'clock hour. The Joint Legislative Budget Committee met yesterday morning as Mississippi lawmakers took kind of the first step toward budgeting for the 2026 fiscal year. So if you're not familiar with the process, the JLBC, in conjunction with the state economist and other financial wizards, puts together estimates of what the state expects to bring in terms of revenue. And then based on those revenue estimates, they then know how much money they have to spend in a budget. And that's where the dollar amount for the budget comes into play. So at this meeting yesterday, Delbert Hosemann gavelled the meeting in. They quickly moved into executive session for an hour, and then when lawmakers emerged, Governor Tate Reeves had joined the gathering to hear from state economist Corey Miller. Here's what was in Miller's report. Sales tax revenue in Mississippi continues to grow, coming in 2.7% higher in this current fiscal year's 4 months than in the previous fiscal year. So you're talking about June, July, October, November. So the first third of the year, is that right? I thought the fiscal year ended June 30th. Can you fact check me on that, Lance?
I will.
Look at the dates on the Mississippi fiscal year. I was thinking it was July 1 through July 30th. Anyway, sales tax revenue is up.
You were right.
Comparable to the first quarter of last year.
You were correct. June 30th, 2025.
Okay.
From July 1st, 2024. Yeah.
Yeah. So the 2026 fiscal year began July 1, 2025 and runs through June 30 of 2026. There you go. State economist Corey Miller also said that individual income tax returns were up 3.3% despite another reduction in income tax rate. The governor explained in some comments that he's making, he said, look, even as we are lowering the income tax rate, people are making more money. The focus since day one in the governor's mansion for Tate Reeves has been, and I know it's tied to economic development, but if you listen close to him and something that we've talked about over and over and over, his focus has been on raising per capita income for Mississippians. So the average annual income for a Mississippian, he wanted to see that number go up. The idea being, as jobs are created, as people go through training programs, as industry moves into the state, as economic development projects are onboarded, it leads to more Mississippians making more money, therefore bringing up the per capita revenue. Now, we know that over the course of the next dozen years, we're going to completely phase out the income tax, but at least for now, income tax receipts are up for the same period year over year. Corey Miller said that corporate income tax revenues continue to trend down. Revenues 0.5% lower in July to October this year compared to the same period in 2024. Part of the reason, full expensing and lowered corporate profits. If you want more of an explanation on full expensing and how that works, I would point you toward Middays with Gerard Gibbert. He can give you a full explanation. Just ask him about it on the text line. It'll be like winding him up and then watching him go. I mean, Gerard loves this stuff.
And he slices it up really, like no one else, too.
Well, and he's really good at it, too. He's really smart when it comes to all of the tax-related stuff and the income-related stuff and, you know, how businesses are allocating revenues and all those things. So all of that added up to the Legislative Budget Office reporting on Tuesday that Mississippi's revenue collection for the fourth month to the current fiscal year were up over 6.5%. Fiscal year-to-date total revenue collections through October 2025 were right at $70 million, 2.8% above estimates. First 4 months of this fiscal year, up a little over 3%. And so this is where I'm just going to be perfectly honest with you. It loses me a little bit. All of these revenue streams are up with the exception of the corporate taxes. Using these numbers and forecasting economic trends for the next year, Corey Miller told lawmakers that the revenue estimating group recommends that the fiscal year state general fund estimate be changed to $7.552 billion, which is a 1% decrease. That's where the story lost me. I'm like, hold on a second. This revenue piece is up, this revenue piece is up, this revenue piece is up, this revenue piece is up. Corporate revenues are down a little bit. You need to adjust the budget down. No public discussion. Joint Legislative Budget Committee unanimously adopted the revised revenue estimate. So basically, the budget for the state of Mississippi stayed level year over year. About a $75 million difference, but $75 million is part of $7.5 billion. Pretty stinking small. Still in a good position financially, although our expenses are going up. We're back after this.
Know where the news is going next. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Rising up, back on the street. Did my time, took my chances. Went the distance, now I'm back on my feet. Just a man and his will to survive. So many times.
Good to be with you this morning. Thanks for joining us. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi. Streaming online at supertalk.fm and SuperTalk TV. The C Spire text line is open at 601-879-4395. C Spire, customer inspired. Don't forget, Community Bank has their grand opening for the new Starkville location this afternoon, 403 Russell Street. Grand opening celebration is from 4 to 6:30. Cash prize giveaway of $2,500 along with some other really cool prizes. Check them out today in Starkville, 4 to 6:30, 403 Russell Street. That's the grand opening for Community Bank. In a Mississippi Minute with Steve Azar, later today you will hear an interview with actor Kevin Sorbo, best known for his roles on Hercules, the TV series, God's Not Dead, and many other movies. So that's coming up. And don't forget, we are late in the season. Last weekend of the regular season for MHSAA. MAIS already has begun playoffs. Got a bunch of high school football games tonight and then a whole bunch more tomorrow night. And we've got you covered at supertalk.fm/high school. A lot of streams, a lot of local stations carrying those. And then there's the Farm Bureau Insurance Company Scoreboard Show, 10 o'clock Friday nights, anywhere you listen or watch SuperTalk Mississippi. Some guy named Lance hosts that show.
Oh, yeah, it's a lot of fun. I even had a member of the ownership management group in with me for the last 2 weeks, Will East, and it was always, Will's got this encyclopedia.
He does.
This amazing information, and he's a great researcher. So it's been a pleasure to have him, as Caleb has been, he went to Oklahoma and then had an early one in Oxford. I think a wedding or something. So, but yeah, Caleb will be back, and we got a great crew. It's always a lot of fun. But man, we're winding down fast. It's like you jump out of this plane and you pull the chute like on a halo deal. I mean, it's just at the very bottom. You're like, okay, it's slowing down. You get games spread out over Thursday and Friday, and it's just it's coming to an end. So enjoy it while you can, because high school football will be over in a snap.
We get to the end of November, you get to that Thanksgiving weekend, and then first week of December, you got state championship games, and so what? It's north half, south half on the Friday after Thanksgiving, and then you a week later, it's always the same weekend as the SEC football championship game. You've got high school state championship games, and this year they are in Starkville. Is that right?
I believe it's Starkville this year, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Returning back to Starkville. And then the MAIS is much different this year with the divisions broke down inside of each class. So that's still much more of a – my mom asks me all the time, she goes, have JT explain it, because he does such a good job with it, because, calling those games for Hartfield, it's been an interesting year to watch, as we saw the deal up at Marshall Academy and how you kind of try to game – your pole position here. Yeah. So it's been wild. And so I will imagine MAIS is going to have a wild finish as well.
Yep. Should be fun. Michael Borky and JT Mitchell have done a phenomenal job with those Hartfield broadcasts this year. Reaction here in the state of Mississippi to Election Day from a couple of days ago, and larger reaction nationwide. Mike Hurst with the Mississippi GOP admitted Wednesday that the legislative special election results were disappointing and yet not totally unexpected. It's what we talked about yesterday. When you have special elections that are happening because district lines were redrawn to create better opportunities for districts that were majority minority to elect senators or congressmen that represent them, you're going to kind of get what you got. Mike Hurst said it this way: Republicans were the underdogs in these gerrymandered districts drawn by an unelected court pursuant to a misapplied federal statute that has been weaponized by interest groups. How do you really feel, Mike?
Yeah, I love that. I mean, he top rope there.
The chair of the Mississippi Democratic Party is Sheik Taylor, and he had a much different tune that he was singing. He said Tuesday's victories prove that, quote, Mississippi is no longer a foregone conclusion. We are a battleground state, close quote. I don't know about that. But he does say this also. But this win was only possible because the Voting Rights Act ensures fair representation. If the Supreme Court dismantles these protections, we risk silencing the very voices that made last night's historic outcome possible. As voters continue to reject Trump's agenda in 26 and 27, we must protect the fundamental right that makes change possible, the right to vote. One other statement by Mike Hurst, chair of the GOP. The wins for Democrats on Tuesday were the equivalent of scoring points in the fourth quarter while losing the game in a blowout. He said it may make them feel better, but it doesn't change the conservative direction or policies in our state legislature, led by Republicans. While we respect the role of the courts, we will nonetheless keep fighting through legislation and, when necessary, litigation for fair, compact election districts that keep communities together and let voters, not judges, decide elections. Very different perspectives on the rulings made by the courts to draw the new lines for redistricting and the result of said redistricting. But not at all surprising that those perspectives would be different. Hurst said he was proud of the Republican Party's candidates, their campaigns, the volunteers, elected officials, and others for pouring untold resources, countless hours, and significant manpower into these races. And in light of yesterday's results, our party will be redoubling our efforts to learn from these races and come back even stronger by recruiting outstanding candidates, expanding our outreach, and earning the trust and vote of every citizen in every corner of this state. So, some of the reaction. You want to know where you're going to find a negative reaction, Lance?
Oh, definitely. Give me some negative.
If the federal government doesn't get back to work and the airline industry becomes more disjointed than it already is.
Yeah, then the guy named Richard Cross.
Yeah. As we move into the holiday travel season, Thanksgiving week, the weekend surrounding Thanksgiving, is the busiest travel weekend of the year. Christmas is not far behind. You're trying to get to grandma's house or grandpa's house or auntie or uncle's house, or maybe take a vacation with your family that is tied to the Christmas break or the Thanksgiving break, or you're trying to get to, I don't know, college football playoff games. And you read a headline where it says the FAA is reducing air traffic by 10% across 40 high-volume markets during government shutdown. The FAA said yesterday that it was taking the extraordinary step of reducing air traffic, again, by 10%. We don't know which 40 airports yet are going to be affected. The cutback stands to impact thousands of flights nationwide because the FAA directs more than 44,000 flights daily, including commercial passenger flights, cargo planes, and private aircraft. Better read that sentence carefully, because it's not just you or your family or your friends getting where you need and want to go. When you say cargo planes, you're talking about shipping, and that's gifts that get sent or gifts that get ordered that are coming to you. Perhaps a reminder that shopping local is the best way to go. Support your local businesses. FAA Administrator Brian Bedford said, "I'm not aware in my 35-year history in the aviation market where we've had a situation where we're taking these kinds of measures." Hard to argue, though, with air traffic controllers who are going, I've given it my all, but you have not paid me since October 1st. Today is November 6th. That is 5 weeks. I get that you're eventually going to make it right. You will pay me for the time that I worked while you weren't paying me. I can't continue to do this. Think about your situation, wherever you are, whatever you do for a living. If I tell you with a week or two notice, hey, sorry, you're not getting paid for the next 5 weeks or 6 weeks, you gonna panic a little bit? Now, some of you may have an incredible savings that you're able to dip into to, make sure that ends meet and all the necessities are taken care of. But a whole bunch of us, we rely on that paycheck coming every 2 weeks or once a month to cover all of our bills. I don't blame the air traffic controllers if they finally say, I can't keep doing it, not going to keep doing it. It's time to reopen the government.
From the Venable Glass Traffic Center, I'm Patty Steele. Venable Glass in Ridgeland and Brandon, locally owned and operated with free mobile service for you in the Tri-County area. We have several accidents all in the same area, I-20 eastbound at Robinson, at 18 and at the Split. Several vehicles involved, so expect delays if you're in the area. Traffic is brought to you by River Trust Federal Credit Union. Take advantage of their limited time share certificate special, a 4.27% annual percentage yield on 30 and 60 months. Federally insured by the NCUA.
Contractors, equipment professionals, landowners, when it's time to move your heavy equipment, Southeastern Services is the one you can count on. Let us worry about the transportation so you can concentrate on the project. Call 601-540-5052 or visit us online at southeasternservices.com.
This is Eric Clark with First South Farm Credit. At First South, we specialize in rural land financing. Whether it's a large tract or 10-acre home site outside the city limits, we offer very competitive interest rates, flexible terms, and quick turnaround. Let me customize a loan package for you. Please call me, Eric Clark, at 601-898-8540. That's 601-898-8540, or find us online at firstsouthland.com.
Get a great deal on versatile Kubota equipment today. Like the Kubota L-Series compact tractor, the #1 selling compact tractor in the U.S., Z-Series mowers, and Sidekick utility vehicles. Stop by your local Kubota dealer today. Right now, bring home select Kubota equipment with 0% financing available or save up to $3,500. Now through December 31st, see us or go to KubotaUSA.com for full disclaimer.
Divini Equipment, serving you in Madison and Jackson. Stop, call, or click at DiviniEquipment.com.
Nowadays, customers are searching online for the services they need.
Are they looking at your business?
Having a mobile-friendly website can really help you win new customers. Let SuperTalk Mississippi Media create a great-looking and very affordable website for your business. Plus, studies suggest that a well-written radio ad can lead to a 20% lift in traffic to your website. Just call SuperTalk Mississippi Media today at 601-991-2305 or go to stmmdigital.com.
The best made-to-order lunch in Northeast Jackson is at 4th and Goal Sports Cafe. Homestyle plates full of catfish, shrimp, and rib tips, just to name a few. Eat in or carry out, DoorDash or Grubhub. Call 769-208-8283. Once again, 769-208-8283.
This is Andy Gibson, your Commissioner of Agriculture and Commerce. Make this a genuine Mississippi Christmas. Shop local at the Genuine Mississippi store inside the Mississippi Farmers Market on High Street in Jackson. Tuesday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. and Saturdays, 8 to 1. We've got something special for everyone on your list. A wide array of specialty foods, candles, jewelry, leather products, and so much more crafted right here in Mississippi. And Merry Christmas to you from Genuine Mississippi.
While most people are settling into their cubicles and sifting through their inboxes, others are busy building the foundation of the future. One brick, pipe, and electrical line at a time. The construction industry in Mississippi needs over 100,000 skilled tradespeople now. If you're looking for an in-demand, well-paying career, visit BuildMississippi.com to discover rewarding careers in the trades. BuildMississippi.com. Your future is waiting. Let's build it.
Are you thinking about retirement, or are you recently retired? Do you have a plan, or do you have a drawer full of statements? If your answer is the latter, then you're not retirement planning, you're retirement hoping. Risks and inflation are rising, and planning is critical now. At Element Wealth, our exclusive 360 process can create a strategy to help protect what you've worked so hard to build while still providing growth. To start the conversation, visit myelementwealth.com or call 601-957-6006. 601-957-6006.
Where Mississippi comes to talk. Middays with Gerard Gibbert. Weekdays here on SuperTalk Mississippi. No filibuster. Just everything you need to know to start your day smarter. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Mike in Simpson County on the C Spire text line says this also, talking about the government shutdown, affects our federally funded firefighters at airports across the nation that provide fire protection and first responder services. Ask me if those guys are important in light of what has happened in Louisville with the crash of that UPS plane that at last count, or at last report, has now killed at least 11 people. Horrific explosion. Older airplane in that fleet. We had some messages about that earlier, talking about that MD-11, which is a big airplane. So, made
in 1991 was that plane.
So, when it came online, the MD-11 was kind of the competitor to the DC-10. You had some airlines that flew MD-11s as their big birds and some that flew the DC-10s as their big birds, and then there were a few Boeing 747s that were out there. The MD-11 is no longer manufactured, nor is the DC-10. Obviously, Boeing makes lion's share of the airplanes that you see in the sky now. But there are other McDonnell Douglas models that are out there. But when you see a safety-related issue, and obviously the NTSB is still going through their investigation, but when you see what appears to be a safety-related issue from, an onboard fire, Lance, that caused it, and people described it as, this was a plane that was going from Louisville, Kentucky to Honolulu.
Yeah, it's like almost 40,000 gallons of
with a full load and a massive amount of aviation fuel, which makes it a bomb in the sky. And that was the reason for the massive explosion that you saw.
That was the worst thing I've ever seen. I watched it, from every angle that you could find it. But man, that literally looked like hell on earth as that plane hit its side and just started blowing up. And for I don't know how long the crash debris was, but it just kept going. It was the most horrific thing I've ever seen.
Yeah. Ron was texting about it. He said, don't know if you guys have been following that MD-11 crash, but port engine fell off on takeoff. It also happened in October of 1979 in Chicago.
Yep.
when they were called DC-10s, I would imagine FedEx and UPS MD-11 fleets will be grounded. That's their main cargo aircraft.
Yeah, the one he's referring to, Chicago O'Hare International Airport, killed 273 people in 79 when the left engine fell off of an American Airlines jet as it was departing.
Ron, I was thinking, and you may be right, and I may be off here, but I don't think that was two different planes, not just a follow-up. The MD-11 was the big bird built by McDonnell Douglas, and the DC-10, which is another wide-body airplane, was who built the DC-10?
Well, I know they were both using GE engines. General Electric engines were both on the DC-10 and the MD-11.
Okay, so MD-11 was an evolution of the DC-10.
Yeah, the DC-10 was the baseline for the MD-11, apparently.
I got you. I was off on that.
I thought it was the other way
around. I was off a
around.
little bit on my aviation history. My apologies.
Got Gerard in here now. He would have been able to reel that off in no time flat.
Oh, yeah?
He's a pilot, he knows that stuff.
Yeah, okay. So I guess it was the DC-10, which evolved into the MD-11, whose primary competitor was the big jets from Boeing.
Yeah, McDonnell Douglas did make the MD-11, but I don't quite, let's see.
They would have made the DC-10 too. I mean, it was
based off
that
the
was
same
next step. Anyway, we got off in the weeds there. We got the announcement yesterday on what SNAP benefits are going to look like in November. Trump administration said it's partially funding SNAP benefits. The 42 million Americans who rely on food assistance to afford groceries now have a better idea of how big or how small their benefits are going to be. There is a chart for this. Once payments are issued, USDA, which oversees SNAP, is warning people to expect about 50% of their usual monthly benefits. The emergency fund the government is tapping into is not big enough, about $4.3 billion to cover 100% of the benefits for the month of November when you get them if you receive SNAP. In a household size of one, if your normal monthly benefit is $298, you're going to get $149, so 50% there. Scaling all the way to 8 household members with SNAP benefits, normal monthly benefit $1,789. November benefit will be $894, and then $109 for each additional person after 8 within a household. Hawaii, Alaska, Guam, and the U.S. Virgin Islands will get slightly more than 50% because food costs are higher there. Hope you have a wonderful Thursday. Thanks for spending part of your day with us. For Lance Tolbert, I'm Richard Cross. This is Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi, presented by Community Bank. Have a great day.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.